Hello and welcome to another edition of Ambient Talkie, a show where we dive into some weird and wacky equipment and wonderful, call it whatever you want, music. I'm Andy from Two Round Robins and I hope you're ready for some audio processing through this thing. I've talked about this wild wooden scene from Peter Blaster in my previous videos. However, I have mostly touched upon using it as a drum and drama machine. So a quick note to those that don't know. PLUMBUTTER is a drum machine of sorts with a very unique sound and patching experience. You can check the other videos out if you're interested in the philosophy behind it and its usability. However, today we're gonna touch upon how PLUMBUTTER can serve us as a great processing tool for your external audio. I'll try to cover a few ways how to do it, but since this is a Peter Blaster invention, it's bound to have far more hidden gems than just the ones that I'll present here. So let's get straight down to business. So PLUMBUTTER has these three audio inputs on the bottom side. One of these inputs goes to the gongues, the other one goes to the AV dock section, and the other one goes to the deerhorn. Now, each section has its own unique way of handling the signal, but the fun part kind of happens when you start modulating between these sections of the PLUMBUTTER ecosystem. So for example, now I have my OP1 connected to the gongues here. And if I go here and just start something, let's say a sequence of sorts or something like that, and I start moving the PLUMBUTTER section here, I can hear that we're getting some sound. Now this is going up. If we have these switches on the middle, there's no sound interconnecting. So you can maybe focus on one and then to the other. But for the sake of this experiment, let's just have it on traditional for now, which is basically, I think, more of a lo-fi based sound. And you can basically really easily connect this and have some sort of filtering going on. So you can use this as your analog filter of sorts. By changing it to this side, you can get frequency spectrums that are a bit more above, meaning that it's more of a high pass than a low pass filter like we have here. And basically it's pretty easy. It's more or less controlling the Q value, the band pass here. I think it's band pass, but I might be wrong. And then, choosing it so it kind of goes within your sound, when your selected sound. Okay, so we talked about filtering, and I said that the fun part basically happens when you start interconnecting. So for example, let's see what we can do here. I'll just try to do a bit of stuff here. So it's in a way somewhat how I want it, but it doesn't really matter for this experiment. Okay, so one of the cool things that we can do here is to feed the ultrasound hot signals into the frequency modulations here. So this is a trick that Dan Dirks showed me, and it is, well, to my understanding, it's quite heavily used in his release film, so check it out for that brilliant recording. But for now, let's just try to do some experiments. Okay, so I have a hot out, and I'm gonna put it into this. And now we have this lovely digital, almost ring shifter kind of feel to it. And you can, of course, just, shape the sound. So that's quite cool. Okay. So what else we can do? Well, of course, we can modulate this side of the ultrasounds by having a sequencer. So you can go from orange out basically straight to the purple ends, or you can just be a bit more tricky and use, let's say for example, the man with the red streams. Right? So there we go. And let's just make another one. So now we have, let's say, a very basic sequence there. Now, if I take an orange out and put it here, well, now, sorry, and put it here, and we can have so cool, like, maybe even doing it here. Then we can maybe take the reds out. And you can hear that the little weird thing that just happened. If I change it. Like a little glissandi. Or you can just have it basically both on the oranges. And you can change the amount of modulation by doing this. And now we have something that's far interesting. So of course we can now just take the, like we did, we took the oranges out and used the ultrasounds to have this kind of a sequence. So that's lovely. Okay. So what else we can do is maybe we can try to destabilize the signals here by maybe taking another rollz out and putting it into the blue ends here. Or let's try to see if I put it on the inverso. And maybe even taking whatever audio signal from here and just put it here. So it's slightly destabilizing. We can even put it on the orange ends here. So now it's going berserk a bit here. So with this, you can get pretty interesting ways of modulating your signal. So it's ring shifty, it's filtery, and it's destabilized now. So that's like a cool little trick. Okay, let's move on to the AV dogs. So, okay, I'm playing a sequence from OP1 here into the AV dogs. However, as you can see, if I turn the AV dogs on, you don't get a signal. So first we need to excite these dogs by doing something like this. So firstly, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna latch it by just normally taking the oranges out into the blue ends here. And then what you do is you basically take the orange out from your rollz and you just excite your dogs like that. And in order for this to work, you need to have your switches in the middle, because otherwise you're gonna incorporate the actual AV dogs into it. So for this experiment, we don't really need this. Now, another cool thing that we can do here is, firstly, let's add a bit of coloring. So as you can hear, if I move any of these knobs, it's not doing anything, right? So what you can do is you can color the signal quite easily by maybe just going out of the dust and putting it into the AV dogs. Now, as you can hear, the signal here is quite low. So at times it's far better for you to basically try to use a preamp of sorts before throwing it into the PLUMBUTTER. But this really depends of how strong the signal is and what you're feeding it from, okay? So now we have colored the signal a bit here. Now another good thing that we can do is incorporate our ultrasound by taking the white out of the AV docs, so the audio out of the AV docs, and putting it into the green in of the ultrasound. So now if I put the ultrasounds here, we can do additional coloring. So let's try to do this with this ultrasound as well. And you can basically mix it in with your dry signal of sorts, adding a bit of dust and creating lovely lullabies-like sounds, right? And now you hear that we have lost the signal. Now this happens sometimes, and what you do is basically you do the same thing, just excite it a bit. However, if you don't want to have it latch and you want to use your AV docs for what the intended purpose here is basically the kind of amplitude modulation or tremolo effect, what we can do is we can take, let's say for example, this one here, the orange out into the green of the AV docs, and we unlatch it. And now by changing the modulations here, we can have fun with this. So I can do the same thing here. Just put it here. And you can have one that's a bit more open, while the other is way more stuttery. So that's quite good. And with this you can again color the signal to your own needs. So it's a great way of having something to basically process the audio in a somewhat unique way. Okay, enough about dogs. Let's talk about the deer. Now the last one that I want to try is the deerhorn section. Now both AV dogs and gongues have a pretty nice ways of uniquely coloring our signal. Deerhorn can do a bit, you can still color it, but I think it's far more suited for a, let's say, performance-based tool. So if we put a switch to the middle, like we did here, and then just use our hand to control it. So I'm having, again, my OP1 is playing a sequence of sorts. And if I move my hand, it basically creates, let's say, a lovely way of controlling this external signal. So you can use this by having, let's say, some different more plumbuttery based sounds like the actual AV docs and the gongs and the ultrasound all handling. And then if you have an external signal and you don't want to use, let's say, the deerhorn sound here, you can just basically incorporate that into your setup here. There's another cool way. What we can do is basically if you have, let's say, a drone of sorts. So I just have a droney note here playing. Then think of like this. If you don't really like the deerhorn sound or it's just not good in that particular moment, what you can do is basically use a different sound here and then just control that different note with your hand. So it's like having a sort of a, it's sort of like swapping your deerhorn sound with whatever you want to have here. And of course, I think if you just move this thing, you can have, again, the deerhorn sound here. Now, as you can hear, the deerhorn sound is a bit, much louder than whatever we're having it here. So again, if you want to mix the deerhorn sound and tune it in, you'll have to consider using a preamp of sorts just to boost the signal a bit more in there. Okay, so another thing that you can do then is obviously you can color it with the dust section here, or ultrasounds, whatever we did with AV dogs and gongs can kind of be incorporated into this as well. Now, another thing that we can do is you can basically try to automate the sequence with, let's say, just having, again, orange to orange is the key to deerhorn automation. Now, if we have it like this and then we open up our deerhorn, you're gonna see the blue lights moving there. So let's just move it like this and hopefully this will work. We just have to wait for it to start. Okay, well. Why am I not getting anything? Maybe by doing it this, so it kind of pings in on this way and then it's gonna move down. Yeah. There we go. And we have an automated sequence of sorts of this drone sound, if we so choose. And of course, you can incorporate the internal oscillators into the mix, like I said before. I think Heimbach has a few lovely jams with PLUMBUTTER that showcase a great way of using the external sounds in coexistence with the internal oscillators. So yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed this little presentation of using the external sounds for your PLUMBUTTER, and like I said, there are bound to be more tricks than the ones that I have showed here. If you'd like to learn a bit more about the PLUMBUTTER, I do have 2 videos dedicated to this machine that you can check out. So please leave a comment, like if you like this video, and sub if you haven't done so already. Have a lovely rest of the evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you might be watching, and I'll see you next time. So take care.